If you aren't familiar with Green Schoolworks, the program received $60 million from the state as part of the Fair Share Amendment. The goal of the program is to provide technical assistance and implementation funding to K-12 schools or districts for projects that improve energy efficiency, reduce carbon emissions, or mitigate the impacts of climate change and support decarbonization planning and prioritization. To be eligible, schools must serve a student population of 40% or more low-income students for one or more of the last 3 school years. And this is based on DESI's school data. We settled on this program model of providing both technical assistance and implementation grants after receiving feedback from schools and districts about their needs through an RFI. Next slide, please. We're looking for proposals for projects that improve energy efficiency, reduce carbon emissions, or mitigate the impacts of climate change at eligible public kindergarten through 12th grade schools, districts, and collaboratives in Massachusetts. We're expecting that districts will apply on behalf of a school or a set of schools, depending on the project. And we've designed this to be a flexible funding opportunity and to support a variety of project types. Projects in early planning stages may apply, but we are expecting to prioritize projects that could begin in the next 12-ish months. So that's summer 2026. Next slide, please. So just to be clear, when we say public K-12 school in Massachusetts, this does include public charter schools, public regional vocational technical schools, and educational collaboratives. The project site must remain a public K-12 school for at least the next 20 years. And we mentioned the income criteria. And then for building ownership, so either it must be publicly owned or have a lease or a ground lease in place for at least 20 years, and capital responsibility. Next slide, please. So we are expecting the minimum award to be $50,000 and the maximum award to be $5 million, and up to 15% of the total awarded funds may be used for soft costs, including schematic design, project management, and other non-construction costs. Applicants should request the amount of the full amount that's necessary for the project to move forward, up to the full project cost. And ideally, we want to be funding projects that have a realistic path to being fully funded after they receive the Green Schoolworks grant. Next slide, please. And we tried to make, I won't go through all of them, but we did try to make eligible project types as flexible as possible here. Again, as long as it's an energy efficiency, electrification, decarbonization, resilience, or clean energy project. We're also able to fund most enabling work that's part of a larger decarbonization project, but we are not able to fund fire safety compliance or ADA compliance just because of the magnitude of that work. Next slide, please. Thank you. And so you'll see on the application that there's a set of selection criteria, but they fall into 3 main guiding questions. Does the project meet the goals of Green Schoolworks, of serving low-income students, reducing energy and emissions, and providing other benefits to the school community, including resilience? Is the relevant capacity, support, and budget in place to ensure the project's success? And will this project contribute to developing school decarbonization best practices by testing an innovative solution, demonstrating a highly replicable approach, or filling an existing funding gap? And then there are an additional criteria for award levels of more than $1 million and then more than $2.5 million, including having a comprehensive building assessment or an equivalent type of planning study done. And Trisha will talk in a minute about how you can enroll in Green Schoolworks technical assistance if you don't have this for the building where you're requesting it. So it doesn't have to be existing, it can be done at the same time. Next slide, please. Oh, okay, so I can share my screen now, and I'll just walk through the application. Okay, I think this is showing the application. So as you'll see here, this is the main attachment. So we're asking just for basic information, and then basic information about the ownership of the project site, what type of school it is, how long it will be a public school. So just to, and if it hits the minimum eligibility requirement. And then we're just asking for a quick project pitch so we can help summarize it as we go through these. And then the technologies included in the project. And then we're asking for a project narrative and if there's any feasibility and design work that has been done. Again, if you're earlier on in your project, you might not have these, but just as much information as you do have. We ask about existing building conditions. And then to the extent possible, a project timeline and any like local or zoning approvals you're going to need going forward. And then we ask about the impact and the goals for the project. Any information you have about your project team. Again, an earlier project might not have all this, but as much as there is available or what you plan to have. And then this part's really important. So your project budget, as much detail as possible, broken out into like the budget item and how much of the Green Schoolworks funding will cover this, so we can make sure it's an eligible cost. And any other sources of funding you either have secured or you think you'll have secured, or if there's additional funding gaps. And then, yeah, just more questions about the budget, and how you would like to receive grants. And then we will, this is just to say that you've reviewed the grant agreement, and whether there would be any changes necessary. And then if there's any other information you want us to know, and then we ask for some additional documents if they're available. Okay, so I think I can go back to the presentation now. Ooh, hold on. Ooh, sorry. Catherine, maybe it's easier if you go back to it. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you. Okay, so our timeline. So we, as you all know, we released our RFP and are having our webinar today. We have office hours that I know some of you have signed up for tomorrow from 11 to 1. And then on the 15th from 3 to 5. So you can sign up for those through our website. And if these times don't work for you, you can always reach out and we can schedule another one. We are accepting questions through the 18th, and we'll be posting the answers to our website at the latest the 23rd, but we hope to get answers to a good amount of the questions up early next week. And then the proposals are due April 30th. We may need to have some interviews of applicants to just get some clarifying questions answered in May, and then we hope to notify folks if they got an award in late May to June. Yeah, I think the next part is about the technical assistance. Trisha, if you want to speak to that.
Yeah, thanks, Emily. So in addition to the implementation grants, we also have a technical assistance services opportunity that's expected to come out next month. This opportunity is designed to support capital planning that focuses on modern, energy efficient school buildings and facilities. These services align with Mass Save technical assistance scope, which includes our Green School Works renewable scope. Schools can receive these services at a low or no cost. And this will be available for any school, any eligible school, regardless of Mass Save sponsorship. This opportunity is available until funding is expended. So it's first come, first serve. So we encourage all interested schools and districts to apply as soon as enrollment opens. And as Emily mentioned before, this is a great opportunity for those looking to apply for the implementation grants of $1 million or more, because CBAs are required for the project site prior to getting the Green School Works Implementation Award. But you can also complete the CBA following the award. And this is also a great first step for those looking for Mass Save incentives or DOER funding or Mass Save MSBA funding.
Thanks. So we'll go through some of the questions. I know Mega's been answering some. So we had one question about our eligibility criteria. So we did end up going with low income percentage as the indicator for environmental justice populations, just because of the complications that came with the environmental justice definitions and folks getting accurate data on that. So yeah, our eligibility, a school must be 40% low income to qualify. If you're having if you have a school, a project that's spanning a bunch of different schools and one is not meeting the eligibility criteria, we're going to review it on a case-by-case basis. But I would say that the average should be 40% or more low income students, if that makes sense. So new construction, no, I think for this program and the funding that was set aside by the legislature, it's intended for existing buildings. Yeah, so
I guess, Emily, just a caveat on that, and maybe this is one we need to take back and confirm internally. I think we had talked about scenarios if there was a clean energy or renewable component of a new construction school that was at risk of being cut. That would be an eligible use, but in general, one of our selection criteria is looking for this funding to fill gaps that other funding sources aren't available to fill. So, we know the MSBA is a program where towns and cities can go for building new schools. So I think that's why the focus of our Green School Works funding is really about decarbonizing existing schools. Does that sound right?
Yeah. Cool. So how will we know when we can apply for the technical assistance? So right now we're qualifying vendors. And then as soon as we can, we'll put the enrollment page up on our website and we will send an email with that information. And then can you enter? So yeah, so someone's asking about PPA. So yeah, if there are additional costs for a PPA, or if it's part of like a roof replacement and a PPA, that would be eligible. There is a part of it where we want to make sure that the funds are going towards like the public good and like the school as much as possible. So you'll see in the application, we do ask some questions if you are in like an ESCO or a PPA. How does this coordinate with the MSBA grant for roof replacement? I'm not sure exactly what you're asking, but I can unmute you, Claire, if you want to clarify. Hold on, sorry, I just have to find you. Okay, I think you should be able to unmute now.
At one of the demonstrations.
So the question I had was, we have an MSBA grant for the roof replacement, but it only covers 70-some%. Can we use this to help match or to cover other costs of insulation and air sealing that the MSBA doesn't cover?
Yeah, are you like already in the pipeline or are you waiting to hear?
We've been awarded, but
Okay.
we're still waiting. We're for our owners OPM, I think it is.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'd say two things. I would say one, with the MSBA projects, it'll depend on the timeline since we are like you can combine funding with MSBA, but it'll depend on we are trying to prioritize projects that can start by summer 2026. But that's just one of the selection criteria. So I would still encourage you to apply. And two, yes, you can combine funding. But I would say that it would have to be a larger decarbonization project. So if, for example, you were just doing the roof, there wasn't like energy efficiency or decarbonization or solar or something like that, it would be less competitive.
Okay, thanks.
And just one note, yeah, just confirming what Emily said, and it's in our RFP that if roof repair is part of a broader, in this case, in your case, sounds like an energy efficiency, like if you're thinking about insulation or, solar, those costs could be applied to Green School Works. I think we'd want to check or have you check with MSBA about like adding scope and make sure, that the logistics of that were clear, and that doesn't have to all be figured out before the application, but I'm just flagging that as a thought in my head to make sure those logistics are clear.
Oh, and I think you also asked who signs the application, the select board or school committee or superintendent. We're assuming that the school districts will apply, but I think it depends on your municipality. As long as they're however things are done in your municipality, I think we will accept. Like, does that sound right to you?
Yeah, I think we said it can be signed by the school district or the municipal leadership.
So the concern here is that it's a regional school district, so it covers 2 towns, and the particular school that's in question is only in 1 town. So
in that case, I'd probably lean towards the superintendent for that district.
okay.
Does that make sense?
It kind of makes sense. It just makes it a little harder for harder for our energy committee to then be a part of the equation because we're in the little town.
Okay. Yeah, so maybe we can chat more with you offline, but I think we can figure out a solution that works.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, especially if it's one town that's gonna pay a
Yeah,
cost share or something. Yeah,
I was gonna say the same thing. I think it'll depend on like how the budget's working.
Yeah, in fact, we are paying for the 25% difference. So, and it's our building, so the school district isn't paying anything.
Yeah, then I would say if the municipality is the owner of the building and taking capital responsibility, then I would go that way.
Okay, great, thanks.
Thanks.
Yeah, this is definitely something we can talk out with folks individually in office hours or through email if you have specific questions. One general guidance I would give is you could think, if it's helpful to think about, like, if we award you funds, who would sign a contract with Mass CEC to accept those funds? That's likely to be the entity that makes sense to sign the application.
Someone asked, is there a list of ESCOs to assist with the design, audits, planning? No, we are not providing that. We will be providing a list of pre-qualified vendors for technical assistance. But I know that's a little different. But you can partner with an ESCO for like if you're doing a project with an ESCO, you can apply for grant funds. We do just ask a little bit about the budget and how that's all working. Will the implementation dollars be awarded now, or will there be other rounds of RFPs? We are expecting to award all available funding this round, but it will depend on the volume of applications we get.
And was part of the question, if I think at this point we're uncertain if there will be future rounds. Depends on future funding. We're not sure at this time.
Does a complete electrification scoping study for the school meet requirements of a comprehensive building assessment? Meg, I don't know if you feel like you have an answer to that, or if maybe we need to. It depends on how it was done.
I think we might need to follow up with that one in writing a bit. And then part of the answer is, we are aligning our technical assistance offerings with Mass Save's technical assistance offerings, and they're in the process of revamping what they're offering to schools and any other large buildings. So I think that that's the intent of the offering they're putting out, but I might want to take it offline and make sure we understood your question, and also with the caveat that they're still finalizing exactly the scope of what will be involved in the technical assistance they provide for school decarbonization planning.
Someone asked, our school is eligible. We're debating between two large scopes, oil boiler to heat pump versus old roof and solar. Both are early in scope development. Is it possible to apply for both? Yes, if your district or school has multiple projects, if you have the capacity, feel free to apply for both.
See a question here about this is a new school that you want to enroll, and so therefore you don't have DESI data, but you think it will meet the criteria. Yes, I think you can apply for this and just give a narrative of the student population will meet this eligibility criteria.
If a building management system is proposed along with an electrification of domestic hot water system, does that meet the requirement of being part of a broader electrification project?
Yeah.
I would say yes. Yes. Okay, great. Hoping your grant could support us going deeper in new construction with the MSBA, planning to do a ground source heat pump, would like to do more with solar. Might that be eligible? Yes. And then I think the same caveats applies the other question where it depends on the timeline for that project. And then also about working with the MSBA and whether it could be done at the same time or sequential, and like how that would work. Sorry, I'm just trying to make sure I'm hitting all the questions. The TA program. Yeah, so the TA program is a separate offering. One is not contingent on the other. Folks can apply to both, and one is not required for the other. But I think, as we said, if you're applying for more than $1 million in funding and you do not have a comprehensive building assessment or something similar, a way to like check that box is to apply for our TA funding, and if you're Mass Save eligible, to do their offering. Does that summarize properly, Meg?
I think so. I would just maybe add, this might be what Chris is getting at, like our offerings are related in that way, that the technical assistants can help make sure you have a full decarbonization plan for your school. But Chris, I wondered, Chris, getting at, like, we're doing technical assistance now, but we also have the grant funding out. So those are happening at the same time. You know, obviously a study you start in June isn't going to help you apply by April 30th. So they are separate opportunities in that way. I think we hope that the technical assistance we offer would still be useful to tee folks up for mass save incentives, incentives from DOER Green Communities, as well as other school-focused incentives that might come out of DOER, and then MSBA funding. So, and then potentially, if we do get more Green School Works funding, they could tee you up for those opportunities. So they are separate, but we hope that the technical assistance through Green School Works will tee you up well for other funding opportunities.
We got a question about an MSBA project that would be complete in 2029. How likely is it to be awarded a grant? So I think we know some of these projects are long, so we're trying to go from, and it's very variable depending on like the scope of the project and the technology. So we're trying to go when the project would start. We will be prioritizing projects that can start summer 2026, but we know like not all projects will. So I would encourage you to apply, and it will just really depend on the volume of applications and how many, the timeline of those. Sorry, I'm just trying to mark up them very soon. 2 separate applications for different projects or one all-encompassing. So if you have 2 projects that are like separate, like it's 2 schools, it's going to be 2 project teams, it's 2 budgets, do it separate. If it's something like, oh, we're doing solar at 5 schools, I would do 1 application.
Like with the same solar installer and
Yeah.
the same deal, then that would be 1 big application.
How much of the 60 million is set aside for construction projects and TA support? So the availability for the grant funding is 52.5 million. And then the TA is 5 million. Yes, construction start is what I mean by start in summer 2026. Sorry for not saying that earlier. Mention of the DOER program. Is this separate from Mass Save? Want to understand the full suite of programs available. I'm not sure what this is asking. Maybe someone else does.
I think probably I just mentioned some DOER programs that our funding might tee you up for. So there is through DOER Green Communities some funding available. And then I don't want to speak on their behalf, but DOER is also considering a partnership with Mass Save, really focused on some showcase school decarbonizations. So that's not, details aren't confirmed yet, but I think that's another bucket of money that might be out there.
And our funding isn't exclusive, so I would encourage you to apply for multiple as they become available. Like, don't feel like because you apply to this, you can apply for something else.
Yeah, thanks.
I think that's all the questions. We did have one question about a hybrid electric gas, which we might have to chat about internally.
Yeah, I think we do need to talk about that internally. I think Mass EC has like legislative limitations on any of our funding going towards a fossil fuel appliance. So I would just want to confirm our answer to that. I think the answer will be that we can probably pay for a, well, no, I want to confirm because of that, the legislative language. Yeah, we'll get back to that one in writing directly with the person who asked it, and then post the answer for everyone to see. projects can definitely start earlier. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, so, and also I know we've gotten this question via email, just to restate for all of you, if projects are underway right now and you have a funding gap where you're gonna have to cut the decarbonization scope or go fossil fuel and you wanted to go renewable or something like that, like that's definitely all eligible. So definitely apply. Do we need to have the RFP completed with the application? I'm not sure what that means.
Paul, do you want to, let's see if we can put you off mute just to elaborate.
Well, I think you should be able to unmute now. For some reason, I can't hear. Is it just me?
I can't hear you there.
Sorry, we can't hear you. But we can answer your, if you email us, we can answer your question and then we can post it for everyone. Is there a date by which projects need to be completed? I think we put a preference for projects that could be completed within a certain amount of time. I'm blanking though.
3 years of contracting. So the RFP states will give preference to projects that are ready to start construction within a year of signing a contract, so summer 2026, and then will be completed within 3 years of signing the contract. So summer 2028, but that's a preference, and like we said before, will depend on the applicant pool. And we do understand that some of these projects are pretty long-term.
Are there any other questions? If not, we can wrap up.
Why don't we give it a minute for anyone to formulate that last question before we sign off? And just to reiterate, we're still taking questions via email, and there's office hours folks can sign up for one-on-one. The question here about a rolling request process, consider this versus this opportunity where there's a 1 month deadline to apply. We are moving forward, with the intention to kind of support, get the funding out into school districts, and that's related to our preference for projects that are ready to move within a year. But we'll see what the response rate is, and definitely appreciate that this is a short application window.
We're going into phase 1 of the project. When do we, basically it's a question about when we envision signing contracts. Meg, I don't know if you have an answer for this. I feel like it will maybe be dependent on the project.
Yeah, so I think this person is saying, how soon can we start? Like, if we're ready to go this summer, will Mass EC be able to sign a contract that quickly? I would encourage you to submit and just flag the time-sensitive nature of the request, and we'll do our best to communicate clearly with you about timelines. added a little more detail. I think sometimes it can take us a while to sign contracts. We'll certainly try and move quickly. And if we know you have time pressure, I think we would certainly prioritize meeting that need if the project was selected.
I don't see any more questions. Oh, there's one. We have a federal fund. Okay, so I think there's a lot of questions about like which studies qualify. I think what we're looking for is really like a capital plan for the building that considers decarbonization in like a strategic way. But we can, I think it does, it's a little tricky. I think it sounds like yes, that Alan, this would qualify. But if you want to email us, we can have a more detailed conversation to let you know. And folks are asking about the availability of office hours. Yes, we can do earlier. If you email us, I will put the email in the chat. You can sign up for an earlier time.
And if anyone has a last question, you want to just raise your hand. We can also just take a quick scan and put someone off mute, although maybe we didn't do our settings correctly, and apologize if.
Oh, we got a question. Sorry. Is there a possibility of adding additional office hours? Yeah, Catherine, just email us your availability and we will make something work.
Yeah, we'll also see if we can put some more slots on the calendar. We have some slots tomorrow and those are all filled. So we're glad to see the interest and we'll see if we can get some more slots up there too. But like Emily said, if you want to meet sooner, email us and we'll figure out a time. All right. Thanks, everyone. I really appreciate everyone's attendance today and interest. And we know this is a new funding opportunity and we're learning along with you all. So please do reach out if you have any questions or ideas or thoughts.
Thanks, everybody.